Hi, good morning, everyone. We're just waiting folks to finish filtering in, and then we will go ahead and get started. Awesome. Thank you. I think we can go ahead and get started now. I just want to say thank you so much for attending our webinar this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are located. This is a collaboration webinar between Earthworks and Patagonia Area Resource Alliance. And we're hoping to have conversations and just shed light on the things that are happening with the FAST-41 permitting process and how mining relates to that. So this webinar will really unpack the federal policy around FAST-41, which was signed into office by President Obama, but has kind of changed throughout the different administrations, with mining being included in 2021. And we have a local community group, PARA, to be here to show their experience with everybody as having gone through the FAST-41 process. So that's a little bit of an outline of what we hope to talk about here today. And thank you again for all making time to be here. So we are recording this webinar, just a few housekeeping things. We are recording the webinar. We will be turning off the recording for Q&A just to help protect people's privacy and allow a really safe space for conversations. So that is how the recording will work. On the webinar, we do have the chat function disabled just because it's hard to monitor two different spheres, but the Q&A is open. And so please, if you have questions through the webinar, put your questions into the Q&A section. We will try to answer some of them in real time as we can, and we will open up Q&A at the end for larger conversation questions. If you do have a big question and you prefer to ask it verbally, please just write that in the Q&A and we will try to have some time to spotlight you at the end. And so that's a little bit of the housekeeping. I'm going to introduce now our wonderful speakers. So from PARA and Patagonia Area Resource Alliance, we have Anna Darien. She is the executive director and brings deep roots and experience in Arizona's mining history and reform. A third generation Arizonian and daughter of Armenian immigrants, she most recently led advocacy and community engagement at Save the Scenic Santa Rita's. With a background in grassroots organizing and policy advocacy and degrees from both the University of Arizona and the American University of Beirut, Anna joins PARA to help lead the fight for stronger protections for people and place in mining impacted communities. We also have Carolyn Schaefer, whose working career was in business management in a variety of industries. Her environmental activism began in the 1960s, and since May of 2012, Carolyn has been a board member of PARA, which is the grassroots organization working to protect natural resources of the region recognized by scientists as a global biodiversity hotspot in need of research and protection for species survival. Patagonia is frontline community impacted by the reality of 21st century industrialized mining. And last but definitely not least, we have Aaron Mintzes, a government relations and policy professional currently serving as Deputy Policy Director at Earthworks, where he's worked since 2012. Based in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, Aaron advocates for more responsible hard rock mining practices, environmental justice, and reforms to outdated resource extraction laws. And my name is Cassandra Lisenby. I am Earthworks Southwest Mining Organizer and am located in the Great Basin and have history with mining fights in the Great Basin. So thank you to all of our wonderful speakers. I'm going to go ahead and pass it along now to Anna to further introduce herself and Para.
Awesome. Thank you, Cassandra. And thank you to all of you for joining us. I see quite a few in the chat, and it's great to see such interest in this. So my name is Anna Darian. As Cassandra mentioned, I'm the executive director for, we'll just say PARA going forward because it's a mouthful otherwise. But I have the distinct privilege of taking over as the first executive director that this organization has had just this past July. But I stand on the shoulders of giants, if that's the proper analogy there. But this webinar was really something that came out when I first sort of transitioned into this role. And as Cassandra mentioned, I used to work for a sister organization with Save the Scenic Santa Ritas. And that mine fight is a little bit different. Like all fights, you have different state politics, federal, you have your nuances and things like that. And when I came to Para, what became really clear is that while we are a small community, sort of at the edge of Arizona, right here in the borderlands, we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience with some things that people could really benefit from knowing beyond this space. And so somebody actually had asked us to share a little bit more about what FAST-41 has been like in this community, because we are the first place where this was implemented from a mining perspective. And I realized at this time that even I had a lot of questions about really what it is. I think like many people, you hear FAST-41 and you just think, Carolyn will tell you the joke, but she'll say, oh, it just means that the project is 41 times faster. And that is absolutely not what that means. And so I just, I have been working with Carolyn and others, and I just think there's a lot of valuable knowledge that people have gained that maybe they don't even realize is really unique, but that could be really beneficial. So I will be stepping aside for this presentation and ceding to Erin and Carolyn to really share their experience. Carolyn in particular, this organization has been around since 2011, and I think she started about 2 weeks after the 501c3 was filed. And so we have a lot of knowledge here, and I'm just honored to sit back and listen. And you'll hear from me again when we come back to the Q&A. So please be sure to put your questions into the chat, or let us know you have a question, but you'd rather come off camera to do so, and I'll be watching that, and look forward to a really fantastic conversation. And with that, I'll turn it over to Erin.
Well, thank you, Anna. I appreciate that. And thank you, Cassandra. In advance, I'm Aaron Minces. I'm the Deputy Policy Director over here at Earthworks. And I think I had a few slides I thought we could probably go through if they were coming up for me. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. I think the first couple of slides will have to go back to our history to get a sense of like how we got here in the first place. And then we'll discuss a little bit about the statute. I am put a lot of words in there, but I'm not going to keep us too long just on the statute. And then we'll talk about a little bit about what's happening now, and then end, I hope, with a couple of tips before we pass it over to Carolyn to discuss at least what the experience has sort of been like in real life. So thank you, Ms. Listenby. Can we have the first slide, please? Well, I remember where I was. It was like 2015, and President Obama signed the FAST Act, and I was like, phew, man, the mining sector would love a speedy permitting scheme just like this. Good thing they're not in it. But it didn't take very long. It was not in July of 2017. It was the Pebble Mine CEO, who then CEO Ken Collier, who wrote to the Obama administration and asked to add the mining sector to the FAST-41 scheme. I would actually quickly just want to say that as soon as the CEOs from Pebble Mine made that request, a number of organizations, I want to really thank Earthworks and Earth Justice and the Natural Resources Defense Council, who sent a quick letter opposing adding the mining sector to the FAST-41 scheme. So I just want to say there's some history here of the environmental community opposing adding the mining sector to the scheme because we were concerned about, if anybody has been following debates over the last decade over permitting reform and speeding permitting, this is part of where we're coming from. Next slide, please, Cassandra. So yeah, like I said, Earth Justice, Earthworks, NRDC sent that letter, and the mining company, the administration said, no, we're not going to add you to the FAST-41 scheme. But then President Trump came in and tried to add the Stibnite mine through an executive order during the COVID emergency. We sent him another letter and said, you have to do this by rule. And so finally, in December 2020, this is where we end our history. Finally, the first Trump administration added the hard rock mining sector to the FAST-41 scheme, making it a covered sector, finalizing it in January 2021, effective immediately, good cause exception to the Administrative Procedures Act. I would just mention that because NGOs by this time were really opposed to adding the mining sector to the FAST-41 scheme. And that becomes important later because, Cassandra, can we go to the next slide? Let's just say that's where we are. Now, what is FAST-41 and what does it do? And what is it? It's like NEPA. It's a little bit like the National Environmental Policy Act. And so if there's one thing you take away from this whole presentation is that everything that you've ever done around NEPA and the National Historic Preservation Act, all of those same strategies in terms of commenting early and often as you can, even if you did not receive an invitation to comment, you should still do that here. Also, communities should engage with local and state agencies and tribal agencies where appropriate to participate in this process if you have the resources and ability to do so. This is similar to NEPA. The FAST-41 statute is right in the code right afterwards. So, Cassandra, can we talk a little bit about that next slide? And we'll talk a little bit about how communities can work with local agencies to coordinate, to get MOUs. The statute says that the federal government shall coordinate with any local government agency. And so we'll hear more from Carolyn about the town of Patagonia and their review of monitoring from Harshaw Creek. Now, that's any separate review. It's not like, the town of Patagonia needs to approve or disapprove of the mine, but they're doing a review. So if you're interested in making friends with your county commissioner or your town council or the tribal council, any one of these entities performs any separate review can ask to become a coordinating or a participating agency. There is some funding that is available to this. It was put in the infrastructure law, so that might be available for tribal agencies or local or state governments to help coordinate and lead to some MOUs on this. Cassandra, could we go to the next slide? I'm going to start speaking a little bit faster. Not just coordination, it's cooperation. Again, similar to NEPA, right? The lead government agency is going to identify and resolve issues. This is about dispute resolution. And so these are opportunities for local, state, tribal agencies to try to resolve disputes early on and can say, hey, this event may cause some kind of substantial delay for whatever it is the review we're doing. And so we should resolve this dispute before this permitting process continues. And so that is available by statute in the FAST Act. Cassandra, can we go to the next slide, please? But what if I'm not a government agency? What if I'm just Aaron from Earthworks, just part of the public? Well, the statute does allow for scoping, just like NEPA does, requires scoping, in fact. I want to pause for just a second. The one difference I'm seeing so far between the FAST Act here and NEPA, if you have a mine that has a significant impact, the FAST Act statute says that the public will get to comment on a draft environmental impact statement, an actual mine plan, if it's supposed to have a significant impact. Not only that, but the FAST Act statute says you get at least 45 days to comment on your draft mine plan, on your draft EIS. Having that statutory protection in the FAST Act differs, I think, from the way NEPA is structured, where while scoping is kind of required, I'm not sure that the draft EIS part always comes up. But we've seen situations where it hasn't, which is why, Cassandra, could we go to the next slide, please? Other things, just quickly, new information is allowed, even if it's after the comment period in the statute. And I would let your lawyers worry about this if it comes to it, but there is a statute of limitations that you're supposed to provide certain details, but let's not let that be an encumbrance. You should still comment early and often. Next slide, please, Cassandra. Okay, so just recapping, the previous administration added only one mine to this scheme. You're about to hear from Carolyn about Patagonia, Arizona. This is important. The current administration has created FAST-41 transparency projects and FAST-41 covered projects. Everything I just said about the statute and the scoping and the 45-day draft EIS for significant impacts only applies to the covered projects. Those are the 12. 4 of them are uranium projects: Graphite 1 in Alaska, Hell's Kitchen in California, Castle Mountain is coming, Tonopah Flats in Nevada, a couple of others, including Donlin. The 3 dozen or so transparency projects, the FAST Act doesn't apply. That's just so you know they're there. Next slide, please, Cassandra. And so this is the second disclaimer, is even though I said there's this statute out there, I can't guarantee exactly how the current administration is actually going to go enforcing anything like this, as shown by what they've done so far through the National Environmental Policy Act, that deregulatory effort. So for example, just quickly, on the FAST-41 transparency list is this McDermott project, for which the Interior Department posted a 5-day comment period until the Burns Paiute tribe sent them a letter. So this reinforces the notion that all the same NEPA and NHPA strategies that we've always used, we should still continue to use here, because just because something's listed as a transparency project doesn't mean it's a covered project where the statute will actually apply. I also listed the Velvet Wood. That was not a Velvet Wood uranium mine, not because it was listed, but because an evidence of how NEPA regulations are beginning to erode. And there might be certain FAST Act protections that might be better available if projects were covered. For instance, the Nevada gold mine, this is a South Railroad. South Railroad project is a transparency project where we believe that what has been reported is the government is going to skip the draft EIS entirely. That is, they're going straight from scoping closed. We won't know what the mine plan is, and they're going to give us a final EIS, a record of decision, without allowing the public to comment at all on what the actual mine plan is. That's a transparency project. Were it a covered project, then the statute would apply, and perhaps we would get a 45-day minimum comment period on the draft EIS. Next slide, please, Cassandra. Okay, so this is the last slide, and then we'll go on. To recap, all the same NEPA and NHPA strategies still apply as before. Please comment. Do not wait for an invitation to do so. And then let your lawyers sort out whether or not it actually ends up in the record if you have to litigate later. Finally, it helps to make friends with local government agencies, town councils, or county commissioners, or tribal governments, including tribal historic preservation officers, because if you could leverage the statute for covered projects for information sharing, dispute resolution, oversight, potential funding opportunities, and potentially even shaping better mine plans, either through a memorandum of understanding or community benefits or community protections agreements. So more on that later too. Cassandra, thank you so much. I'm finished.
Thank you so much, Erin. Appreciate you. And we are going to go ahead and pass it off to Carolyn. And I will get your slides up right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate Earthworks sponsoring this today. Being in an impacted community, it is important to know what others are experiencing and how they're dealing with it. And first, I want to say to everyone on the call, thank you for being an earth steward and a water protector. We are working to co-create a better world, and that is very important work. I am here in the Patagonia Mountains, where I have lived for 30 years now. It is an incredible place. The town of Patagonia has been a mineral resource area for many centuries. For thousands of years, the Patagonia Mountains experienced hand removal of minerals by the ancestral tribal peoples for use in ceremony and in trade. The original occupants of these lands are the Sobai-Puri. The Tohono O'odham peoples are descendants of the Sobai-Puri. These ancestors were the early inventors for many uses of minerals for tools. Next slide, please. During the mid-1800s until the early 1960s, there was a significant increase in mining activity in the Patagonia Mountains. Much of the mining was by individual prospectors until the early 1900s, when mining companies operated at increasing levels. During the 1903 to 1912 period, a total of 14,216 tons of ore were extracted. Beginning in 2010, there has been an increased interest in the minerals in the Patagonia Mountains. 21st century industrial mining is significantly different from previous mining activities, plus the reality of a long-term drought and water issues and all other things related to our climate reality. One foreign mining company intends to move into production beginning in 2027, with plans to extract an estimated just over 4.7 million tons of lead, zinc, silver, and manganese per year. Next slide, please. These are two important maps of the mine claims in the areas. The one on the left are the mine claims. There are approximately 70,000 acres of claims surrounding the town of Patagonia, which is kind of the upper part of the screen and in purple. Yes, thank you very much. And we are surrounded by about 70,000 acres. Roughly half are owned by the Australian mining company, South32. The other half are owned by a Canadian exploratory company, Barksdale Resources. The claims of South32 are that lighter green, and then in the center, the yellow. The yellow are private, oh, no, down, yeah, there you go. Private patented lands. And of course, being private patented lands, that means that when they designed their project as an underground mine and they restricted themselves to those private lands, they were not subject to any federal environmental laws. All they had to do was to get 3 permits from the state of Arizona, 2 water permits, and 1 air quality permit. The other claims are, again, the Canadian company, and they are in the process of exploratory right now. FAST-41 applied only at this point to the South32 project. South32 came here again in mid-2018 and began developing the property. In May of 23, they were admitted to the FAST-41 program. This project was the first, and until recently, the only mine project in the United States on the FAST-41 program. And so we've felt very much like guinea pigs. And a good thing is we are able to share that guinea pig experience with you and hopefully be helpful for you. The map on the right is based on data from natureserve.org that identifies the biodiversity in these mountains. The pink areas are the highest biodiversity, and unfortunately, they are also right where all this mine activity is occurring. When the announcement was first released about this project being admitted to the to the FAST-41 program, there was great concern about the impacts for Para's work to protect our natural resources. Fortunately, an immediate internet search brought discovery of an Environmental Law Institute article quote, "This permit or reform already works. Why aren't more mining projects using it?" End quote, by lawyers Jamie Plune and Edward Bowling. That helped all of us realize, okay, the FAST-41 is not a designation of just speed. So that helped balance us. Next slide, please. PARA accepted the Hermosa Project FAST-41 designation as a gift because it moved South32's project to federal oversight. Unfortunately, in 2025, as we know, the federal government is weakening the Environmental Protection Agency and pushing mining projects as critical for the country's economy and national defense. But there are elements of the FAST-41 Permitting Council guidelines that have enabled our community to benefit from this designation. On May 9th, 2025, the Coronado National Forest released the draft environmental impact statement for the South32 Hermosa project. That meant that the town of Patagonia and Santa Cruz County were both designated as participating agencies in the FAST-41 process and brought some benefits from that. So as Aaron said in his presentation, and I will underscore, working with your local agencies to get them to participate in this process as an official participating agency will have its benefit. Another benefit of being on the federal oversight now was that this project was subject to the draft environmental impact statement under NEPA and also under the FAST-41 process. And both Santa Cruz County and the town of Patagonia are currently in negotiating process with South32 for a community protection and benefits agreement. The organizational draft EIS comments that were filed were shared with the county and the town in order to inform the agreement negotiations. Next slide, please. PARA coordinated about 24 subject matter experts from these 16 organizations who were signatory to our organizational comments, and these comments were filed on June 18th. And as I said, the documents were shared with the town of Patagonia and the county. The town of Patagonia wrote to the Coronado National Forest Service and asked for all of the water reports submitted by the mining company. The forest wrote back and said, "Oh, sure, fill out a Freedom of Information Act form." And I think all of us have experience with how fast that doesn't go. Compliments of working with Earthworks, and specifically Aaron, who worked with the town of Patagonia, drafted a letter to the Permitting Council and said, "We are a participating agency and we do not have to do a FOIA." And the Forest Service did respond and give a link to the requested documents. The final EIS is scheduled to be released no later than February of 26. Our reality is that we are living in unprecedented times and uncharted territory. We do not know the outcome, but we can guarantee that we will have documented all that is wrong with this DEIS. This proposed project will occur in a global biodiversity hotspot recognized by scientists as one of the top regions in the entire world, most in need of research and protection for species survival. Our hope is that PARA's efforts will result in a level of mitigation and monitoring programs that will sufficiently protect this region from becoming a sacrifice zone. PARA is also working with the local governmental entities on the discussions that they are having with the mine company to negotiate that agreement. Hopefully the agreement will provide better protections than the inadequate federal and state negotiations. And none of us have seen the draft document. It's getting closer to possible signing, and it's been promised it would be released publicly for comment before they do sign it. But it is my understanding that the document clearly says that the intention for the protections and benefits that are in here are to exceed any existing regulations. Next slide, please. South 32's definition of sustainability is wholly inadequate in this global biodiversity hotspot. What you see on this screen are the mission statements from the agency websites, Environmental Protection Agency and the United States Forest Service. These are interesting and important mission statements that all of us doing this work know. Apparently, they forget to look at them on a regular basis because it is not what we, the people, are seeing. And we are at a place in the evolution of humans where we have got to take protections of the earth as our ancestors did. That's my presentation. Thank you very much. And my wish for you is that you find success in being on the FAST-41 program and not be scared of it. Thank you.